By 2035, operations in Earth's orbit and beyond are projected to generate $1.8 trillion in global economic value. This chart shows the current distribution of that market. Despite a decades-long record of successful launches, India captures only a 2% sliver of this global revenue, valued at roughly $8.4 billion. Since its inception in the 1960s, the country's space program operated under a strict state monopoly. Dr. Vikram Sarabhai and the early leaders of the Indian Space Research Organization prioritized national development, like weather tracking and resource mapping, over commercial competition. This budget graph from 2017 to 2020 reveals the constraints of that model. Relying solely on annual government appropriations created a linear growth cap, making it increasingly difficult to scale operations as the global space industry rapidly shifted toward high-volume commercial services. To bypass these limits, the government authorized a pivot in strategy. The new objective is to capture 10% of the global market by 2040, which requires engineering a domestic space economy worth $100 billion. Reaching that 10 times multiplier meant moving away from a closed, state-funded science program and building a deregulated, commercially viable framework. The 2023 space policy provided the legal mechanism for this shift. It officially ended ISRO's status as the sole operator in the sector and redefined the agency as a facilitator for private industry. A new regulatory body, In-Space, was established to authorize private missions and grant startups direct access to national infrastructure, including the launch pads and testing chambers at the Satish Dhawan Space Center. The market response was immediate. In 2014, India had exactly one registered space startup. Today, that number has grown to over 190. Agnikul Cosmos serves as a primary example of how quickly these private ventures are now iterating. Their Agnilet engine is the first in the world to be 3D printed as a single piece. This technique eliminates hundreds of individual components, removing the assembly bottlenecks found in traditional rocket engines. They also developed the Dhanush mobile launch pad. By designing infrastructure that can be moved by road, they allow for rapid launch site setup without being tethered to fixed government facilities. Other startups, such as Skyroot and Pixel, are simultaneously deploying their own launch vehicles and satellite constellations for the Earth observation market. These hardware breakthroughs suggest that the 2023 policy successfully removed the barriers that had previously kept domestic engineering talent out of the orbital market. But policy alone does not launch rockets. Space is intensely capital-heavy, and many hardware startups fail during the expensive transition from prototype to a commercial fleet. To bridge this gap, the government restructured the financial architecture by allowing 100% foreign direct investment. This was followed by a 1,000 crore venture capital fund and a 500 crore tech adoption fund to help startups scale. The strategy also leverages India's existing heavy manufacturing base. By partnering with established industrial giants for large-scale production, startups can remain capital light and focus their resources on rapid research and development. This three-tiered structure of foreign capital, government funds, and legacy manufacturing capacity de-risks the entire sector, providing a pathway for startups to reach orbital operations. While the mid-century space race was driven by national prestige, modern competition is defined by efficient commercial supply chains and launch frequency. India's objective is to become the primary space service provider for the emerging economies of the Global South. To dominate these contracts, the domestic industry targets a high-frequency launch cadence, one liftoff every 2 weeks, to sustain large-scale satellite constellations. This transition represents a shift from a closed, state-funded science program into a public-private economy built for international competition. The success of this $100 billion strategy depends on maintaining the momentum of these reforms, turning policy deregulation and financial de-risking into a reliable, high-volume industrial pipeline for the global market.